We are going to learn about blood vessels. So we have three types. There are arteries, veins, and capillaries. Okay. So let's see what are. So blood vessels that carry blood away from the heart is called the arteries. Okay. So the blood vessels that carry blood away from the heart. And blood vessels that carry blood towards the heart is called the veins. Okay. And what about capillaries? These are the blood microscopic vessels that connect arterioles and the venules. Okay, so both the arteries and venules. So arterioles are the smallest branches of arteries and venules are the smallest branches of veins. So this is how they are connected. Okay, so basically arteries will be bringing the blood from the heart. Okay, and vein will be bringing the blood to the heart. Okay, and this is where these are connected to the capillaries. Okay. So as we mentioned, the direction of flow will be for arteries, it will be from heart to body parts. For veins, it will be body parts to heart. And capillaries, first it will be flow to arterioles, then capillaries, then to the veins. Okay. And what are the type of blood in each of them? So arteries usually carries oxygenated blood. Okay, because it is directly carrying the blood from the heart, right? So there will be oxygenated blood. Except there is an exception case. That is our pulmonary artery. So whenever we mention about heart, we can see the pulmonary artery, pulmonary vein, okay, all these things. So the pulmonary artery will be carry deoxygenated blood. So that is an exceptional case. So don't be confused. Okay. And what about vein? They usually carry deoxygenated blood, except pulmonary vein. So whenever you see the name pulmonary, be very cautious. Okay. So pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated blood and pulmonary vein carries oxygenated blood. Okay. So this we will again discuss in the double circulation in the coming classes. Okay. So pulmonary artery is the artery that carries deoxygenated blood from heart to lungs. And pulmonary vein is the vein that carries oxygenated blood from the lungs to the heart. Okay. And here blood changes from oxygenated to deoxygenated, right? Because the capillaries, arterioles move to capillaries, then to veins, right? So we have seen that in the cells, the cells will be using the oxygen for respiration processing, etc. Right? And as a result, what is released? CO2. So that is how the oxygenate become deoxygenate. And now let's see the wall thickness. Okay, so arteries are comparatively very thicker, muscular, and elastic wall because they have to carry that much pressure, right? And what about vein? They are comparatively thin and less muscular walls. Okay. And capillaries, as we know, it is extremely thin. Okay. Very thin vessels. And what about elasticity? Arteries are highly elastic, and the veins are less elastic, and capillaries are very less or not elastic. Okay. And talking about the pressure, arteries have very high pressure. And what about veins? They usually have very low pressure. And the capillaries, very, very low pressure. Okay. Very much low pressure. And what about speed of the blood flow? So in the artery, it will be very fast and pulsate. Okay, so it is very fast process. But in veins, it is a very slow and a steady process. Okay. In capillaries also, it is very slow because the exchange should be done, right? And the lumen, that is the internal cavity. Okay. So like for each artery and vein, we have a lumen like this, right? So the thickness and all will be different. So this space is called the lumen. This space is called the lumen. Okay. So in arteries, it will have narrow, but for veins, they will have wider. Okay. So this is artery, and this is how the lumen of veins will be comparatively wider. Okay. For the capillaries, it is very narrow. Okay. And what about the valves? In arteries, there is no valves. But in veins, there will be valves. Why we need valves in veins? They will prevent the backflow. And in capillaries, it happens. So these are the veins, right? So in each and every vein, there will be a valve like this. Okay. Like this, there will be valves. Okay. Valves like this will be throughout the vein. So why we need this? So that the blood will only flow like this. Okay, it will only opens to one direction. Okay, so when the blood try to flow backwards, this valve will not open. Okay, so that won't open. So that is why valves are present only in veins. Now let's check the location. So where can you find the veins? It is very much common, right? It is very easy for you to identify the veins. And what about arteries? They are mostly deep seated. Okay, whenever something happens to your arteries, you use a lot of blood, right? Compared to vein. So it is very hard to find. It is deep seated. It is much deep in the bone. And what about vein? We can easily find identify the vein, right? It is not very much missing. And what about capillaries? They form a network throughout the tissue. So, well, in our entire body, we can find the network of capillaries. Okay. Now let's move on to the function. What are the major functions of artery? Basically, they will transport oxygen, right? And also the nutrients to tissues. Okay. So they will transport oxygen and the nutrients to the tissues. And what about weight? They will return CO2 and waste to the heart. So the blood for purification is carried out by the lungs. And what about capillaries? We have already seen them, right? Exchange of gases in alveoli, nutrients, we mentioned villi and also waste. Okay. And what about the branching? So the arteries divided into smaller arteries, then they are called arteries, right? So it is not possible for a bigger artery vessel to reach each and every part of our body, right? That is not possible. So they will be divided into smaller arteries, that are called arteries. And what about the vein? They are also branched into small branches that are called veins. Okay, that are called the veins. And capillaries are already highly branched network. Okay. And what are the examples for artery? They are aorta, pulmonary artery, all these are there. And what about vein? We have the vena cava, both superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava. And we also have the pulmonary. And what about capillaries? Capillaries are plenty, right? It's a lot more than arteries and veins. So we have the capillary beds and the in lungs and tissues. Okay, capillary beds in lungs and tissues. And also, while we are taking blood for blood tests, which blood vessel do we select? Arteries, veins, or capillaries? What do you think? So basically, we'll be selecting the veins only. Okay, because it is very easy to identify and also it is very safe to take blood from the vein. So, taking blood from arteries are very rare because it is highly risky due to the pressure. Okay, and if there is no other option, like for some specific test only, we need the blood from directly taken from the arteries. Okay, for the oxygen, concentration in your blood for such test only. Otherwise, we'll be doing the vein only. We'll take it from the vein only because that is more safe. Okay, before do the action. So this is what we have to understand about the blood vessels. Okay, so be very careful here about the pulmonary artery and the pulmonary vein. Don't mix them. Okay. So this will be very helpful while we are learning about the heart and the double circulation and all other parts in this pulmonary lesson. Okay. So revise this portion very carefully.